Welcome, y'all. It's Wes with DIY Food Plot Pro. Thank you so much for joining us. Today's episode, we're talking about the secret sauce of deer hunting farms. Many of you watch Dave Ramsey and you hear him talk about the secret sauce. The secret sauce that doesn't really exist. It's discipline and following what you're supposed to be doing. So on today's episode, we're going to talk about, is there a secret sauce for deer hunting farms? And if so, what is it? So I travel around during the wintertime doing a lot of consulting on the properties, and there are multiple properties that I do find a secret sauce on those properties. So the way that works is we're getting out and we walk this farm, and I mean, we are walking like crazy. This is not a ranger ride through the woods to hit the high points and I'm off to the next one by lunchtime. This is a very in-depth walk where we're trying to cover every square foot of that farm because the devil is always in the details. So there's so many things that you miss when you are just simply taking a Can-Am through the logging road here and we make a big circle on the farm, and that's pretty much it. Show you the couple food plots. That's the farm. What I have always strived to do is when I'm doing these consultations for my clients is to try to find anything on that property that makes it different than anything else in the neighborhood. In most cases on those farms, we find the secret sauce on that farm. And sometimes it's like jackpot, and sometimes it's something very subtle that we can play off of, that we can really help that hunter be able to hunt that land more effectively. So what am I looking for when I'm looking for this secret sauce on the hunting farms? It's a wide variety of things. I am walking, but I'm also constantly scanning, looking for different tree species, right? Because if we're in heavy pines and we find oaks, we just found a gold mine, right? One of the farms that I was walking this year, we did this exact same thing. And the biggest majority of it wasn't pines. It was more of like a lowland type timber, a lot of red oak, but no white oak. Just none. And we saw some trails and we saw a few rubs and a few scrapes. We really weren't seeing any of the sign that we should have been seeing on this farm with all the cover that was on it. No food plots to speak of, or no food plots at all on the farm at that point. And we ended up walking to the last corner of the farm and we found 4 white oak trees together. All the sign in the world was around those white oak trees. We had good access to them. We set up several stand locations in and around those travel corridors that were going to those white oak trees. I feel 100% confident that hunter will have a lot of success there in the years to come. The reason I told that story is because from the topography maps, nothing was evident there. You couldn't see that from the maps. I had already looked at the aerial and studied the aerials. There was nothing there. That was 100% us walking every square inch of that farm and finding those. Like I said, the devil's in the details. That was a key detail that I think we would have missed if we were just riding through that property on a Can-Am or a Ranger. I really do. Like, it was a part of the property that there was really no trails going to. We had to go through some pretty thick stuff to get to it. And once we found it, it was hard for me to tone down how excited I was. And I think the landowner he didn't realize how exciting that was for me to find that, because that is just something that is going to be an absolute Mecca. When you're talking thousands and thousands of wooded acres with no white oaks, none. And all of a sudden you got 4 in one spot, all within 75 yards of each other. You've got a heck of a setup right there. So that's one thing that I'm looking for. I'm also looking for in areas of hardwoods, like where I'm at, right? Biggest majority of our woods are hardwoods. What am I looking for? I'm looking for thermal cover. That is something that sets that farm apart and makes it a little bit different. Any of you have ever used a drone flying over in the wintertime on hardwood, you can see straight down to the forest floor, no trouble whatsoever. You fly over a stand of pines or cedars or anything like that, it's completely blocked because it's holding all that heat from the day, right? So there is a significant amount of heat being held right there. And during the winter times, those are absolute great places for big bucks to bed in that thermal cover. Another thing that we're looking for is soft mast trees. Any kind of fruit trees, any kind of persimmon, pears, apples, anything like that will set the farm apart. I also visited a farm this year that had a tremendous amount of apple trees on it. The landowner had actually already keyed in on those, but those are great things that set your property up to be different than all the rest of the properties. It's something that really needs to be identified on the properties and to be able to set stand locations in and around those areas where we can direct that line of travel. I think one that gets overlooked an awful lot is water sources. And here's why. Most of the time here in the fall, we are dry. Yet, even Kentucky, we're the first or second most water-rich state in the country, right? We have rivers or creeks just about surround every single farm that we have, make up the boundary lines. So we have a tremendous amount of water on our properties, all of them. But typically what you'll find in whitetails is they would much rather drink out of warm, stagnant, nasty water. What we would consider that is go down to a flowing spring or a creek and drink out of cool flowing water. A lot of times during the fall, we get really, really dry here in the Mid-South. And those water sources are what I call wet weather water sources have dried up. And in that time, a water source in a area close to a bedding area is absolutely game changer for us as whitetail hunters. One of the last ones I was looking at is we were walking a farm, and I'm still blown away by this. I'm not going to share what state it's in or anything like that. I don't want to get the landowner to have 10 million people knocking on his door. But we were walking a property, and we found chestnuts, and I mean a bunch of them. A big mature tree, and there was chestnuts all over the ground. Now the little shells, the deer had already ate all of those chestnuts. Something like that, my gosh, you talk about finding a gold mine. But that takes something more than just typically just driving around on a side-by-side. You can't see those little details when you're out there driving around on a side-by-side, except when you're walking this property. This is a great time of the year to get out, scour what's on your farms and what areas are making your farm stand out from the neighbors and what areas are look just like the neighbors, right? We're in mature hardwoods here. All the woods, for the most part, look just like what you see behind me. You can't see a whole lot. It's actually a little bit thicker up in this area. Most all of this looks just like this double tree right there that you can see. Everything that way looks just like that. Very little woody browse on the floor, almost non-existent to speak of. Something that can set this property up different is making it thicker. That gives them an area where that high stem count, high woody browse area that these mature deer especially are looking for, as to get away from pressure, get away from humans. They're looking for those safety areas. And this is something that we could easily come in here and turn this farm in and turn this farm around, put this all into bedding, and we will pull a lot of deer to this area. As I was walking over to this area, it was real funny. Like, I've got a little area right next to you that kind of borders a plot. I've just been letting it grow up, kind of doing some tests and some trials on how long it takes for things to grow up. What are some of the plant species that are involved in that? So basically what we've got there is a real soft edge. You know, it goes from timber and then it goes into grasses and annuals, perennials up about neck high. And along that soft edge, we've had a lot of little saplings that have grown up, you know, and walking along that thing, there's just piles and piles of rubs and scrapes and tons of sign along that transition line. And you hear me talk about that a lot on the channel, is that transition area. Doesn't matter what kind of transition it is, but a transition area is where deer in general like to be. And that's a perfect example right there of one. So when I'm looking for the secret sauce on these farms, sometimes it's something like a chestnut tree or a white oak tree that you don't have any around. And other times it's much more subtle. And on some farms, we don't find a secret sauce. We just got to do what we do. We hunt quality access stand locations where we have great places to throw our wind. We hunt on the outside. We leave large areas in the center for the deer to be, not to be disturbed, and we pull the deer. We hunt between the bedding and the food, and as the deer are going past us, we have good shots. But I encourage you to get out, look at your property, look at your timber, and try to identify what species you have out there, and you may be very well surprised on what you have out there, something that you may not have had any idea that you had. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Y'all smash that like and subscribe button.